On the promise of being paid 100k for the job, Jimmy decides to go to the desert to acquire Lalo's $7 million bail money. What happens soon after is Jimmy coming dangerously close to getting killed in the desert by a rival cartel and having to travel on foot in the blazing heat. Jimmy first notices that his cell phone has no service. When he first starts driving out to pick up the money, he thinks it'll be all no big deal, which underlines his assumption that the day won't involve anything other than a drive and back. Meanwhile, the twins are grabbing $7 million at a cartel stash house to pay for Lalo's bail and to meet with Saul to deliver him the money. As they leave in their car, the camera zooms out to reveal one of the workers at the stash house was observing the twins, and he makes a phone call to someone to inform them about the twins' next move. After Jimmy picks up the $7 million, several members of a rival cartel corner him in the desert and almost kill him, only for Mike to kill all but one, with the one lone survivor. Mike ruthlessly killing the gunman. Context-wise, all of this isn't even to protect Jimmy, who he puts in that situation in the first place, but to complete Gus' agenda, who might not be the lesser evil. Kim is against Jimmy going out into the desert to get the bail money, but Lalo because of the risk factors involved. While Jimmy can be pretty vindictive and doesn't mind screwing people over, he actually goes into a shock once he's almost executed and a half dozen men die before his eyes. He may be used to hurting people, but deep down, he's not a violent man. Right after saving Jimmy, Mike lets him process his shock and later tries to get him to focus on the fact that he is still alive, and the two proceed to leave the desert. As Mike is inspecting Jimmy's car, he takes out the gas cap and stores it away in his bag, implying that he had put a tracking device in there, and that's how he found and saved Jimmy. Jimmy's car ultimately breaks down due to the alternator literally being shot. After Jimmy's car dies, he and Mike have to continue on foot, and it is very clear it takes a toll on both of them. It clearly takes a toll on them. Jimmy's nice lawyer suit gets ruined pretty fast, both by blood and him having more shit to carry through the burning trek in the desert. Jimmy suggests merely burying the 2 bags of cash and returning with a car to pick them up, and Mike makes it clear that isn't a viable option, as they didn't have anything to dig a suitably large hole, nor a method of finding their way back to dig it up. Even as Jimmy tries digging up the hole with his license plate, Mike makes it clear all he is accomplishing is wearing himself out. Jimmy is exhausted and dehydrated after walking, lugging $7 million in 2 duffel bags in the desert for so long, so he decides to drag the money bags over the stony desert floor. Instead of carrying them further, this ends up tearing a hole in one of the bags, through which several of the bills fall out all over the way. The morning after camping in the desert, Jimmy wakes up, takes a piece, only for Mike to pointedly tell him to not waste it. And sure enough, during the I am montage that follows, a filled bottle is one of the first things we see dangling off of Jimmy's person. And yes, he does ultimately have to drink from it. When the lone survivor of the cartel shootout finally catches up to Jimmy and Mike, Jimmy grabs both bugs and wraps himself in a space blanket in order to draw his attention away from Mike so he can shoot him. When the gunman appears again, Jimmy puts on the shiny space blanket specifically to draw his attention. When Mike shoots the gunman, he and Jimmy quickly find out that when a car is traveling at a high speed and suddenly finds itself without a driver, the results generally aren't pretty. Though in fairness, Mike was likely expecting the gunman to stop and get out of the car before finishing off Jimmy, and had to act quickly when it became apparent that he intended to run Jimmy down instead. Mike still having to walk back to town on foot after their last chance at a ride is flipped. Not only that, but due to being worried over Jimmy and not coming home, Kim winds up letting Lalo know Jimmy had kept her in the loop about how he's been working for him, while the affection and the care for each other was never in question. Jimmy and Kim's marriage seemed primarily motivated to protect themselves professionally, and when he doesn't return, a deeply rattled Kim reveals all to Lalo in the vain hope of getting some answers, while Jimmy is given the encouragement to soldier on by Mike's talk of loved ones, and now he owes it to them to keep going. Mike explains to Jimmy that what keeps him going is knowing that he still has people who are counting on him, and he outright states he doesn't care if he lives or dies as long as he is able to provide for them, even evil as loved ones, as discussed by Mike, although he never wants his loved ones to find out the sort of work he does. He will endure what he must to see them safe and provide for. It seems to dawn on a despairing Jimmy that the same applies to him as well, which motivates him to keep going for Kim. The episode ends with Jimmy and Mike still having to walk back to town on foot after the last chance at a ride flipped.